Hi everyone, this is Wilczek, the founder of the Wolf Sound blog and YouTube channel on audio programming. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up your project to use WebViews that have appeared in JUCE version 8. We'll start with a completely blank repository, so after watching this video, you'll know exactly which steps to follow if you want to have a WebView-based UI in your audio plugin. So let's start with this empty repository. The first thing we're going to do is going to import JUCE as submodule. There are various ways how you can do it with JUCE as a dependency, but I decided to go with this one because it's the most straightforward one. So first let's init the repository in this empty folder. Perfect. And now we may add JUCE as a submodule. So I'm going to git submodule add https://github.com/juice-framework/juice.git, and we'll put it into a folder called libs JUCE. Okay, now that the download is completed, we can check if we are up to date. So we go git submodule update --init --recursive. As you can see, we're up to date. So now we can add this to our version control. So go git add git modules libs JUCE. Okay, we can go okay, like this. Perfect. We have our JUCE set up. So each JUCE project can start with a top level CMake lists file. That's what we'll be using in this tutorial. And what the first command is going to exercise if we have the minimum required version of CMake installed. So we'll get CMake minimum required version 3.22, and we'll specify that if not, it's going to be a fatal error. And now we can specify our project name. So it's going to be project, and we'll call it JUCE WebView plugin tutorial. And we'll specify the version as 0.1.0. And what we'll do add subdirectory libs/juice. And now we'll try to generate this project CMake-s.b build. I'm on Windows, so this is generating an MSVC based solution, but if you're on any other system, it's going to look exactly the same. Okay, as you can see, our project got generated. There's nothing interesting in it because we just have JUCE as a dependency, but we can already start creating our plugin files. So we'll create a folder called plugin, and inside this folder, we'll have a folder called source, src, and we'll have a folder in the plugin folder called include. And in this include, we'll have a folder called audio plugin. And now here in this plugin folder, we need to also add CMake list.txt file. And this will define our plugin. And here we need to add subdirectory plugin. And what I always like to do before including JUCE, I just set the CMake C++ standard to C++20. So this is going to be set CMake_CXX_standard and then 20. Now that we added our plugin subdirectory, we can go here and we can create our plugin with the JUCE add plugin. And now this is going to be JUCE WebView plugin That will be the name of our target. And then we need to specify a few things. So company name, let's say it's going to be Wolf Sound. And then it's not going to be a synth. So we're going a synth false. And then needs MIDI input will say false. Needs MIDI output will say also false. And then plugin manufacturer code is going to be WFSD, and plugin code is going to be JWVT, and then product name is going to default to what we already have. So this is going to be JUCE WebView plugin, and that's it for now. Now what we need to do is we need to specify the sources for this plugin. As you can see, we have no sources here yet, but we can readily copy them from CMake examples. As you can see, let me just copy them over. Copy, paste, and we'll put the header files into the include folder. And maybe one last thing to do is to put a namespace around it. So let's call it WebView plugin. Okay, and we'll do this with all these files. Just remember not to put it around this create plugin filter call, because it was declared somewhere else. Okay, and now we need to define that the sources of our plugin. So we must call target sources JUCE WebView plugin private, and then we'll go src plugin editor.cpp src / plugin processor.cpp. Okay, and of course here we need to specify our audio plugin directory. So maybe I'll rename it so that it corresponds to this folder, so that it corresponds to project name. Okay, so we'll have plugin editor include JUCE WebView plugin / plugin processor, and the same in the implementation files. Okay, next step we need to do, we need to include directories. So we go target, include directories, JUCE WebView plugin, private include. So here's a typo, it should be target sources. We need to specify here our namespace. Now what we can specify is that we want to build, let's say, formats AU, VST3 and standalone. And for this, we need to define some flags. So we'll go first target, compile definitions, JUCE WebView plugin, public, and we'll go JUCE web browser assign 0, JUCE use curl assign 0, and JUCE VST3 can replace VST2, assign 0, and target link libraries, JUCE WebView plugin, private, JUCE audio utils, public, JUCE recommended config, flags, JUCE recommended link time optimization flags, JUCE recommended warning flags. These are all options that JUCE advises to use by default. So let me once again regenerate the project. So we'll go CMake-s-b build, CMake-build. Of course, the link to the repository with the full project you can find in the description below if you're just curious to check out the code. Okay, and let's check out our plugin. So go build plugin JUCE WebView plugin artifacts, and then debug, and then standalone JUCE WebView plugin.exe. Exactly, we got our plugin with hello world. Okay, this is always the basic setup that you would have for a plugin. This is your starting point. From now on, we can start implementing WebView features. And this is this point that we'll start implementing this stuff. Everything before was what you do for every plugin. If you want to use WebViews, it's the steps that we are now taking that you must repeat. So here, since we're in this CMake list of this plugin, let's define JUCE web browser to 1. This is important to, activate the whole WebView thing in the first place. And this again requires that we regenerate our project. So it's CMake-s-b build, CMake-build. Okay, so now we're ready to add WebViews to our plugin. So let's go to our plugin editor, and here we'll specify that we'll use JUCE web browser component, and we'll call it WebView. So this is the component that will display our WebView based UI. And for this, we need to include here JUCE GUI extra / JUCE GUI extra. That's what we need to include to have the web browser component here. And now we can go to the plugin editor, and we need to initialize this field in the constructor. So let's go here, WebView, and go JUCE web browser component options. And here you can provide all the options that you need to make your web browser component work. So we'll leave it as default for now, but we'll go back to it later on. So what do you do normally with any components that you have? So we need to, of course, add and make visible WebView. And then what we need to do is we, of course, need to set bounds in the resized function. So what we can also do here, we can remove this paint method. We're not going to use it at all. Okay. Here's our function, and we can go WebView set bounds, and we'll call get local bounds. In this way, our WebView will fill the entirety of our window. So once again, let's build this. Okay, and let's run our standalone version. Exactly, as you can see, something's changed, right? We have a blank screen here, but if we right click it, nothing happens. And I'll show you why in a second. So first, what we'll do is we'll make the size a little bit larger here, and we'll set it to 800 by 600, and we'll also make it resizable. True. Okay, and the nice feature of WebViews is that we can go to an arbitrary URL, right? So I can display here some website from the web. So I'll go WebView, go to URL, and here I can pass any URL that I can imagine. So it's going to be https ://juice.com. Okay, so let me build the project again. Okay, and let me run it. Okay, and as you can see, I got an error. Actually, I got a lot of errors. And that's because on Windows, the basic backend for WebView components is Internet Explorer. So as you can see, the content here is not displayed right. And I got a bunch of errors. So that's because the browser that's bundled by default is heavily outdated. But if you're on any, if you're on Linux or Mac OS at this point, you should see properly working JUCE web page. So for this segment of the video, I'll show you the exact steps you need to make if you're on Windows. So remember, these are the steps you need to take only if you're on Windows. And if you want to jump ahead to the next part of the video, you can do so using the chapters below the video. Okay, so if we're on Windows, what do we need to do? One of the first things we need to want to switch to the WebView 2 backend, which is powered by Microsoft Edge browser engine, which is based on Chromium. So in essence, we want to force the usage of a newer engine. And the reason it's not the default is that there are some versions of Windows that do not ship with this engine. So it makes total sense to have a default option that will work on all Windows machines. But we want to have a backend that's most up to date and can perform all the web operations, WebView display that we want. So what we are going for here is that here in options, we want to specify it with backend. So this is safe to do on all platforms. So if you're developing cross-platform, you can always specify the backend for the Windows, and on other platforms it will simply be ignored. Okay, so let's go JUCE web browser component options backend, and we'll use WebView 2. We have not enabled WebView 2 in our CMake. So what we need to do here is we need to define JUCE use win WebView 2 with static linking, and we specify it to 1. So we could use dynamic linking as well, but static linking is simply easier when you're just starting out. And then if you know that you need the dynamic linking, you can specify it, and then you can also in your C++ code point to a DLL where the WebView 2 package is contained in. Okay, so let's configure this again. CMake-s-b build. Okay, and let's build this. Okay, perfect. And now you can see that the header WebView 2 has not been found. And that's because we have not ordered JUCE to find on its own WebView 2 package, and I will show you how to do it right now. What you need to do is here in JUCE add plugin, you need to specify needs WebView 2 to true. That will force JUCE to look for WebView 2 on your operating system. So once again, this forces JUCE to use WebView 2 with this option in plugin editor to use WebView 2 as the backend, and needs WebView 2 says, okay, not only I want you to use it, but I also want you to, on your own, find the header file and the library file. So once again, we need to reconfigure this project. Okay, nice. And now we got another issue, right? So let's see what's happened here. So CMake warning at WebView 2 wasn't found in the local NuGet folder. To install NuGet and the WebView 2 package containing a statically linked to library, open and partial, and issue the following commands. So in essence, we don't have this package installed. We don't have this developer kit installed to use WebView 2. But JUCE provides us with instructions what to do. So we'll trust it and we'll execute this. Okay. We need to pass it on one line. Okay, so now we installed a NuGet repository source. So from this source, we can get NuGet packages, and let's scroll up. And here we can install the Microsoft WebView 2 NuGet that we need to have WebView 2 working on our operating system. Yes, although it's untrusted repository, I want to install NuGet. Okay, and it got installed. And now when we run CMake again, it should be able to find WebView 2 on your operating system. And as you see, it did. And now let us build again the project. Okay, and now let us run this. Okay. As you can see, we get the JUCE web page. And we get no warnings, it works perfectly. So we've just added support for WebView UIs across all platforms. But of course, now we're just going to some address on the web page. But how do we go about putting up our WebView UI? Well, before we do this, there's one last bit that concerns the Windows platform. So here, it's very important that you do this. When you specify the backend as WebView 2, so this is Windows only, you also need to specify the user folder. So let me format this, okay. What we need to specify here is with WinWebView 2 options. And we again need to specify JUCE web browser component options WinWebView 2, and here we need to pass in with user data folder, and here we can specify JUCE file get special location JUCE file temp directory. So we need to specify the user directory because in some digital audio workstations, sometimes you may get weird errors related to permissions. So on Windows, when using WebView 2, it is necessary to define this user data folder. All right, so we said that we don't want to go to an arbitrary URL, right? We would like to serve our own WebView UI. So how can we do this? Well, let's start first by creating the UI that we want. So in the plugin directory, I'll create a UI directory. And here I create a public directory. And in the public directory, I'll create the file index.html. And here we create a very basic plugin frontend. Let's start with doctype HTML. And then we go HTML, lang is English. Okay, and then we had specified meta charset is UTF-8. And then we specify the title, which will be JUCE 8 WebView plugin tutorial. And then we have our body, and within our body we'll have main, and here we have each one title, which will say hello world, right? So we can actually open this here locally. Okay, and indeed we got our hello world in our HTML file here. So it's nothing fancy. I can close this down. But how to serve it from JUCE, right? So let's go to plugin editor, and the magic option here, the magical option is to, let me maybe format this. Okay, is to say with resource provider. And here we specify a callback that will be called whenever a resource is requested from our, C++ backend. So we pass it as a lambda, we pass in this in the capture, and then we have our URL. And what we return here for simplicity, it will be get resource, which will be a member function of the plugin editor. Okay, there's one more thing that we need to do this. We need to comment this out, and we want to go to our WebView. So we'll go WebView, go to URL, and we'll say WebView get resource provider root. This is the function that will trigger WebView to ask our C++ backend for a resource. So if you look into the documentation of resource provider, we'll see that the signature of this is actually a function that returns an optional resource and is given a string. So let me go to plugin editor and let me create an alias for simplicity. So we'll go using resource is JUCE web browser component resource, and our get resource function should return stud optional of resource, and it's passed an JUCE string URL. Okay, so let me copy this and maybe paste it here so that I don't have to maybe specify the whole type. I can simplify it to give the return type as the last. Okay, and what's the default stud optional? It's nullopt, so it's .nullopt. Okay, and now this basically says that whichever resource we're returning, it's not there. So if we build it now, we can expect that this resource won't be available on the backend, so we'll get some kind of error. Okay, and let me run this. Okay, something flashed, but we got actually error code 13. Okay, so how do we return something other than nullopt? Well, basically, this function should locate the files that we have on our disk, or maybe we ship with the plugin, and read the contents of the file we want to return to a vector of bytes, and should return this vector of bytes. So how do we go about it? Well, we can start off by looking at what is the format of the request that we're getting. So let us maybe log the URL. Okay, and as you can see, the URL is simply a /, right? So actually what is being printed is the /, and that's how our resource provider is called. So how do we go about it? Well, there are various options you can use. You can copy the files to the output, you can zip them, you can bundle, but like the easiest way for me, I think, is for now, I'll show you another method later on in this tutorial series, but for now we could simply, you know, copy path to this folder, right? So I'll go static const auto resource file root is going to be JUCE file, and I'll just pass here the absolute path. So we can make this a raw literal, so we'll go like this. Okay, so that nothing, that the backslashes are not interpreted as escaped. Okay, so we have our resource file root, and now we can check. So if this URL is equal to the root, maybe we will do even nicer. So we'll go resource to retrieve equals, so if URL is equal to index.html, so like the /, then it's index.html, and if not, then we remove the /, and this is quite straightforward in JUCE. We go URL from first occurrence of, and pass in the / and then false. This is exactly what's been done in the WebView plugin demo that's shipped with JUCE 8. Okay, and now we know that if we're asking for the root, we're asking for index.html, and now we can just simply return the correct file. Okay, so now resource to retrieve is actually a relative path, right? So it's a path within our public folder. So we can refer to it just by using JUCE file class. So we can go auto resource, and it's resource file root, and get child file resource to retrieve, and then we can readily read it by calling create input stream. Okay, and now if this resource exists, we want to get its extension, right? So go const auto extension, and we'll go resource to retrieve, and we'll go from last occurrence of. This is a simplification, of course, which may fail in some edge cases, but it's good for our purposes so far. And what we'll now do is we'll return a resource, and here we'll have a function that will read a stream and turn into a vector of bytes. And we'll also use a function getMime for extension. Okay, so these functions, you know, they were not devised by me. They're already in the WebView plugin demo. So if we go to JUCE examples and then plugins and WebView plugin demo, and here we'll go stream to vector, exactly. So we can simply, you know, copy and paste it in an anonymous namespace. Okay. And then there was this, you know, get mime type for extension. Okay, we can just also copy and paste it. Okay. We have it here. Okay, we need to just define that these are JUCE types. Here I can go using namespace JUCE. And the same thing I'll do here. Okay, and let's try to build this. Okay, we've managed to build it. We need to prepend the JUCE namespace to the JUCE types, but other than this, it works. And now when we run the WebView plugin, as you can see, we got our hello world. And here's a chance to have another fix related to just WebView 2 on Windows. So as you could see, the window was transparent. We typically don't want that. So what we can do is we can go here with background color, JUCE colors white. And now the WebView window will have nice white background color. Okay, as you can see, we get a nice white background color. We have our hello world. So actually our plugin now works. It's implemented completely without making any network calls. When the WebView wants to retrieve some resource, it calls our C++ backend, and our C++ backend returns the HTML. So in the next episodes, we'll go over how JavaScript in the WebView and C++ can communicate. So stay tuned for this. You can check out the full project of the whole tutorial series in the GitHub repository in the link in the description. There's also a nice script that automates the download of Microsoft's WebView 2 NuGet package with your CMake build, so feel free to use it. And see you in the next episode.